What is up, guys? It is Marcus from Perspective Sports, and today I have an updated Eric Bledsoe video, and this one's the top 5 trade scenarios and best destinations for Eric Bledsoe. I didn't really like the last video I made. I mean, it was more of reactionary trade scenarios, but now that we have more information coming out, now that we know exactly what Phoenix wants, it's time for an updated and better version of the last video. But first, let's have some background. Phoenix Suns point guard Eric Bledsoe posted something on Twitter that read, "I don't want to be here," which sent the entire basketball world into a frenzy. He would later say he was in a hair salon, which no one believed, especially not Phoenix Suns GM Ryan McDonough, who hasn't played Bledsoe since. And his team is currently 4-1 since the benching of Bledsoe and firing of head coach Earl Watson. McDonough has made it very clear that he is in no rush to trade Eric Bledsoe and isn't going to trade him for the sake of getting him out of town because he is so valuable. Bledsoe has been one of the more criminally underrated players in today's NBA, mainly because he hasn't been an all-star despite averaging 19 points a game, 5 rebounds per game, and 6 assists per game while shooting 45% from the field and 34% from beyond the arc during his 5-year span in Phoenix. And I can confidently say if Bledsoe weren't in a conference with Steph Curry, James Harden, Chris Paul, Klay Thompson, Damian Lillard, etc., he'd be a multiple-time all-star. But now that you have the background, let's dive into the top 5 destinations in the trade scenarios for Eric Bledsoe. Number 1 is the Detroit Pistons, but this list is in no particular order. The Pistons have expressed a ton of interest in acquiring Eric Bledsoe, but according to ESPN's agent Wojnarowski, Detroit wants to dump Reggie Jackson, who's actually a good player that hasn't really lived up to his contract in the process. But the one problem is the Suns don't want Jackson, which means they'll have to bring into a third team into the deal, and this third team will be the Chicago Bulls. And here's how the deal would look. The Detroit Pistons will get point guard Eric Bledsoe. The Suns will receive small forward Stanley Johnson, power forward Nikola Mirotic, and a 2018 Pistons first-round pick unprotected, and the Chicago Bulls will receive point guard Reggie Jackson. Eric Bledsoe will be a huge upgrade at the point guard position for the Detroit Pistons, not only because he's a two-way player, so the Suns won't lose any defensive efficiency that they had from Reggie Jackson, but he actually adds to the offensive versatility. Bledsoe can drive to the rim and score that way, but he can also spot up and knock down shots, which is extremely valuable in today's NBA. And three-point shooting is something the Pistons desperately need as they rank in the bottom half of the league, shooting just 34.6% from beyond the arc. This deal works for the Suns because they want a young player with tremendous talent, and in this deal, they get 2 players and a first-round pick. But if we're being honest, Stanley Johnson is a mystery box because he's been buried in the depth chart his whole career, behind guys like Tobias Harris and Marcus Morris, leading to him only getting about 18 minutes per game last season. But with 3 years left on his rookie deal, the Suns will have ample time to determine whether he's worth keeping around. Nikola Mirotic, on the other hand, has formally requested a trade from the Chicago Bulls after getting into a physical altercation with his teammate Bobby Portis, which resulted in him, having facial fractures. Mirotic is currently on a 2-year deal that'll pay him about $25 million, $12.5 per season, but it also has a team option, so if the Suns don't like what they see, they can just let him go this offseason. And then once again, they get the Detroit first-round pick unprotected. As for the Bulls, on the other hand, they land a solid point guard in Reggie Jackson to hold down the position while they continue to rebuild, while at the same time dumping off a guy who no longer wants to be there for good reason. Up next, we have the Orlando Magic, who actually seem like a team that can make the playoffs. Mainly because Aaron Gordon is finally making that jump, going from just 12.7 points per game to 20 points per game and 5 rebounds per game to 8 rebounds per game, while his shooting has skyrocketed from 45% to 56% from the field. But with Aaron Gordon doing well, you can't say the same for his teammate Mario Hezonja, who the Magic have decided not to pick up his 4th-year option, meaning he'll become an unrestricted free agent after this season. Mario showed a lot of potential entering the draft back in 2015, but after not being able to average more than just 6 points per game, which he did in his rookie season, it's safe to say we know why the Magic want to move on. But despite the Magic being done with the Hezonja experiment, he's drawn interest from a handful of other teams that think they can muster the promise that he showed 3 years ago, and if he doesn't, his contract is over after the season, which means they can just move on from under it. With that being said, here's the trade. The Orlando Magic receive point guard Eric Bledsoe, and the Suns receive shooting guard Mario Hezonja, point guard Elfrid Payton, and a 2018 Magic first-round pick, lottery protected through 2019, or they'll get the 2020 and 2021 Magic second-round picks. It's pretty clear why the Magic would do this deal, and it's exactly what this team needs, a two-way player who can really score the ball. This move also gives the Magic a lot of flexibility in their rotation with the starting 5 of Bledsoe, Ross, Fournier, Gordon, and Vucevic, and bringing guys like Jonathan Simmons, Aaron Aflalo, Jonathan Isaac, and Biyombo off the bench to mix and match rotations. This isn't a finals contender or anything like that, but this most certainly is a playoff team. As for the Suns, they get two young players in Elfrid Payton, a guy who we all know can actually play and is a good player and will produce for them. And they also get Hezonja, who I think will be a nice addition to the Suns, and a guy who I just think needs a change of scenery. Also, if he's a hit for the Suns, they can re-sign him for the low because they can just point to the small sample size during negotiations. Or if he's a miss, they can just let him go at the end of the season. But I wouldn't write Hezonja off just yet. Next, we have the Milwaukee Bucks, and this is a rather tricky one because the Bucks don't want to give up any of their core players, but in order to get this deal done, they have to. And there's no other way. Because the Suns don't want a bunch of stuff. They made that very clear. They want a young player with talent or potential. And let's say there's a perfect scenario where the Suns get what they want without the Bucks giving up Brogdon. Pretty much is who they really don't want to give up in this deal. And that deal would be the Milwaukee Bucks receive point guard Eric Bledsoe and center Tyson Chandler. The Suns receive center Thon Maker, shooting guard Rashad Vaughn, point guard Matthew Dellavedova, center John Henson, and a 2018 Bucks first-round pick unprotected. In this scenario, the Bucks satisfy two of the Suns' needs/wants by giving them a young player with potential in Thon Maker, who averages 14.5 points per game and 7.3 rebounds per game per 36 minutes last season, and Rashad Vaughn, who averaged 11.2 points per game per 36 minutes last season. Both players have a good amount of time left on their contract, Rashad Vaughn with 2 years left and Maker with 3 years left, but they also take on Tyson Chandler's contract, something the Suns really wanted so they can get him off of the books. Next, we have the Philadelphia 76ers, who have a ton of assets to trade, and if they really wanted Eric Bledsoe, they can get him with ease. And with center Jahlil Okafor requesting a trade from Philadelphia, the Sixers declining his fourth-year option, and the Sixers refusing to buy him out due to his value on the trade market, that means if Philly acquires Bledsoe, there's a 99.9% chance Okafor will be in that deal. And with that being said, here's the deal I think will get it done. The 76ers receive point guard Eric Bledsoe, and the Suns receive center Jahlil Okafor and shooting guard Nick Stauskas, and the Sixers get the better pick in 2019 between their two second rounds. The 76ers want to do this deal for a multitude of reasons. Markelle Fultz is currently out for an unknown amount of time with a shoulder injury. Ben Simmons is playing out of his mind, averaging 18 points a game, 10 rebounds per game, 8 assists per game, and he reminds me a lot of LeBron James. No, I'm not saying he's as good as LeBron James or is going to be as good as LeBron James because it's way too early to make that determination. But his play style is almost an exact match. And to get the most out of Ben, you have to surround him with scorers. Bledsoe is sure enough that guy who can score in bunches and can play off ball. And my final reason is JJ Redick is on a 1-year deal and doesn't fit the Sixers timeline as he's 33 years old, and the only reason Philly brought him in was to put a scorer beside Ben Simmons. And having Bledsoe going forward who's 28 would be great for Philadelphia. Even for this season alone, having a starting five of Bledsoe, Redick, Simmons, Saric, and Embiid, then mixing in guys like Fultz when healthy, Covington who I actually like, Bayless, Timothy, etc. This team can make it to the second round of the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. As for Phoenix, they get Jahlil Okafor, a guy who actually can play. He just doesn't fit Philly's play style, and he isn't going to take Joel Embiid's starting job. But in Phoenix, next to Marquise Chris, where he can grow, Okafor will flourish. And in this deal, they also get Nick Stauskas, a 24-year-old perimeter scorer. And finally, our last team for Eric Bledsoe is a Western Conference team, and that's the Denver Nuggets, who can really use a guy like Eric Bledsoe, as Emmanuel Mudiay doesn't really fit that team, at least not to me. Mudiay has a ton of talent and potential, which makes him extremely valuable on the trade market, and here's the deal I feel will get it done. The Nuggets receive point guard Eric Bledsoe, and the Suns receive point guard Emmanuel Mudiay, power forward Kenneth Faried, and a 2019 Wizards second round. This is a good deal for both sides because Mudiay and Faried get a much-needed fresh start in Phoenix where they can grow as players, and the Suns get two talented young players. And the Nuggets upgraded point guard to pair alongside Paul Millsap, Jokic, Barton, Harris, etc. The Nuggets also get a lot more experience, something they'll really need in the Western Conference as they go up against tougher teams. He'll also be able to gel with guys like Millsap and Chandler to help get the younger guys on the same page so they can make a playoff run. Now, this deal doesn't make the Nuggets finals contenders or anything of that nature, but it's a big step in the right direction. Well, there you guys have it. There's my top 5 destinations and trades for Eric Bledsoe updated. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know down in the comment section what you think. I'm out.